Pipe couplings are used to connect two pipes of the same material together, whereas adapters are used to connect two pipes of different materials and connection methods. Let's start by looking at couplings. Standard or straight couplings are used to connect pipe of the same material and size. There are quite a few types on this overloaded table, and that only represents some of the options. This one I have here is called a dresser coupling. It's named after the original manufacturer. Now inside, there are rubbers on each end, you can see, which get placed into this tapered sleeve and then compressed by the flanges on each end. Now that squeezes the rubber against the pipe to make the seal. I only have a pipe in one end. Obviously there would be a pipe placed into the other end as well. Now over here I have a similar example of a large PVC repair coupling. Now one of the reasons these dressers and these very often get called repair couplings is because you can slide the coupling all the way over one piece of pipe, and then the other piece of pipe you can slip into place without having to back it away and get it into the fitting. Then when they're both positioned, you slide your coupling back over and tighten the two ends. Here I have grooved coupling. Now this one holds the pipe together by grabbing the grooves that are placed on each piece of pipe. And there's a rubber inside, which you see that I have placed right here. And this rubber, when the fluid pushes on the inside, makes a seal on the edge of the pipe. Now the fittings also have this groove placed on them, so this coupling can be used for connecting two pieces of pipe or a pipe to a fitting. This one I have here is called a roustabout. It's very similar looking to the grooved coupling. It's mostly used for repair scenarios or revisions. The difference being on the inside there's these grab teeth which actually hold the pipe. The rubber is very similar to the groove fitting, but it's just used for plain end pipe. Most modern cast iron pipe comes with plain hubless square ends. And these are connected with hubless couplings, or often called mechanical joint couplings. Again, they're couplings, so they're meant, the definition is to join two pieces of pipe, but they can also be used for joining the pipe to the fittings. There's a rubber seal on the inside, and they're tightened with these two gear clamps to make the sealed connection. Here I have a selection of tube couplings. Here's a half-inch PEX coupling, and you can see it slides onto the tube, and the seal is made then with a press tool. It has an inner liner and O-rings to make a seal. Then it's a permanent connection once the two ends are pressed. Here I have a half-inch PEX crimp style coupling. This requires a crimping tool to squeeze these brass crimp rings and make the seal on the fitting. These here are other types of polyethylene couplings. This one's called an insert style coupling. Here I have one made out of plastic, one made out of galvanized. So they're just forced into the polyethylene tubing, and then a gear clamp is used to hold it in place. Here's a version here, which actually is a insert 3/4 by 1/2 inch polyethylene reducing coupling. This polyethylene coupling here is called a Filmax, and it has an inner sleeve that the tube that slides inside of the poly tubing, and also you can see the O-rings make the seal, and this grab ring on the outside, when tightened, if you look very closely, you can see it has teeth on it, which are used to grab onto the tubing. Here I have copper coupling. This style is called a compression coupling. So similar to these ones that have tapered sleeves, it has a ferrule which, when the nut is tightened, squeezes that ferrule onto the tubing, and it's permanently affixed to the tubing. And that taper also makes the seal. So that's a 1/2-inch copper compression coupling. Here I have a couple of more styles. This one here is a 3/4-inch brass Mueller coupling, and it can be used for connecting to Series 160 polyethylene or copper. Now, if you're using it to connect to polyethylene, it's important that you use a stainless sleeve like this one here. Now what that does is it maintains the roundness of the tubing, so we get a proper seal on the rubber O-ring, and it also it firms up the poly tubing and allows the O-ring on the outside to grab on to the poly tubing. On this end I have a 3/4-inch shark bite coupling. Now these have internal tapered grab teeth, and it's just a push-on style fitting. As you push it into place, it grabs on, and there's an O-ring inside that makes the seal. These can also be used to connect to poly-PEX tubing. You'll notice on this end right here, if you look really closely, there's a white sleeve, and that serves the same purpose as that stainless steel sleeve that I showed you with the Mueller coupling, to maintain the roundness of the poly tubing and firm it up for grabbing onto by the O-ring. So again, it's just a push style connection. Now they can be disassembled by pulling back this sleeve right here and removing the tubing. Here's another Mueller style, similar to what I just showed you, but this one is a reducing coupling. Here I have a number of threaded straight couplings for various materials. They're all 1¼ iron pipe size. This one here is a black malleable iron, 150-pound coupling. Whereas here I have a galvanized coated malleable iron, class 150 pound. Here I have a brass, 150 pound. This one right here is called a merchant coupling. Inside, the thread is not a tapered pressure seal like our normal pipe threads. So it's used more as a thread protector, and it's often referred to as just that. Here I have a number of plastic couplings, ABS and PVC solvent cemented couplings. These are socket fusion couplings here. So this is a polyethylene socket fusion coupling, and you can see what they look like when you have the fusion weld made. On this polypropylene one here, it's slipped into the socket, and you can see the fused melted bead that's created when the pipe is welded into the socket. Now, as I demonstrated with this Mueller fitting, if you need to join fittings of different sizes, then you use what's called a reducing coupling. So for example, here I have a 1 by 3/4 inch copper reducing coupling. Here's some other examples. This is a 3/4 by 1/2 inch expansion style PEX reducing coupling. Whereas this is a 1 by 3/4 inch black malleable 150 pound reducing coupling. Now this is also a 1 by 3/4 reducing coupling, but it's a much higher pressure rating. This is a 3,000 pound forged steel. So you can see the 1/2 inch connection, sorry, the 3/4 inch connection and the 1 inch connection. The much heavier wall giving it that high pressure rating. Here I have a cast iron drainage reducing coupling. Now here's another cast iron drainage. This was 3 inch by 2 inch, by the way. And here's another 3 by 2 inch cast iron reducing coupling. But as you can see, it's all rubber, so I just put the 2 pieces of pipe directly into it to make the reduction and the connection. Now all of these reducing couplings that I just showed you are all what are called concentric style reducing couplings. And what that means is the center line of the pipes remain the same on either side. Here's a bigger example for you to see. So the reduction, the center line is maintained. Now another style is called an eccentric reducing coupling. And you can see that it reduces down and the center line of the smaller size shifts down or up. It might be easier to see when I hold this one up. Here's a concentric and that center line is maintained, as opposed to this eccentric where you can see the top line of both the larger pipe and smaller pipe maintain the same elevation. So a couple of examples I could think of where you may want to maintain that center line either in line with the top or the bottom of the pipe might be, for example, you're doing a steam system and your condensate drainage, you would want it to be able to drain through the system unaffected. Then you would put your eccentric reducer flat on bottom. Another example might be on a hydronic heating system where you want the air bubbles to be able to move through the system smoothly. In that case, you would put your eccentric reducer flat on top. So that's it for couplings. In our next video, we'll have a look at adapters.